Okay, so here are today's notes for our newest chapter, chapter 3, where we are writing equations. So the first thing I want you to do before we actually start is I want you to read through. Look at today's, make sure you have downloaded the notes page. If not, you should also be writing it down in a notebook. But look at today's objective. Students will be able to write the equation of a line given a point and a slope, and then translate the equation to an equivalent form. What I want you to do is to find in the standards, so read through the standards, and in this section, find the parts that this objective is talking about. So underline the key words and phrases that this objective is talking about. Again, underline the key words and phrases that this objective is talking about. So I want you to see is that everything I ask you to do is because the state has written a standard who says that you need to do it. You should have underlined, find the equation of a line passing through a given point. And you should have said, oh, well, here's the translate the equation. So we're going to translate, and we are specifically going to be focusing on these three forms. Recognizing that different forms reveal more or less is also kind of what we're going to be focusing on, but just kind of keep this in mind as we go. All right. Now let's look at the success criteria. Again, it's okay for you to be at the not yet or in progress, as long as by the end of the lesson you're at the met. We're first going to be writing the equation of a line given a point and slope. We're going to be using what's called the point-slope form. This is the point-slope form, and I want to write some notes. This and this don't change. They do not change. Do not change. And remember, it's always going to be minus an amount. We are simply going to be plugging in, oh, that's a horrible pen. Let's see what size, okay. So we're going to be plugging in for the x, we're going to be plugging in the slope, and we're going to be plugging in for the y. Those other pieces do not change. For these pieces, I want to make sure you have highlighted that this is going to be standard form and slope-intercept form. We're actually going to do this one first, and then this one second. And you'll want to be able to see this later on. Ooh, not what I wanted to do. Okay. So let's look at the vocabulary a little closer. So it's important that you know what each of these pieces are. So the point-slope form is actually y minus y equals m times x minus x. And this, you need a point and the slope. And if you did not remember how to find slope, slope can be found by doing our slip and slide. That's from last chapter. Or if you don't like using that, it's y minus y over x minus x. So you need to find the point and a slope. You also should notice that you don't need to simplify this, but you can. But you need one point and slope. Slope-intercept form is in the format y equals mx plus b. This one you need the slope and the y-intercept. And the y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis. If we're thinking about word problems, the y-intercept is where it begins. So if your bank account information, your parents started a bank account when you were born with $50 in it, and your grandma put in $5 each month, the equation for that would be y equals, you have to figure out which one of those begins at, and it begins at 50, so that's the B. And $5 each month is going to be our 5x. So you can even write equations when it's just word problems in slope-intercept form. Standard form is capital AX plus capital BY equals capital C. And the reason why those are capitals is because they are values. And what this does is it gives you the x and the y intercept. To find the x-intercept, it's simply going to be c divided by a. And to find the y-intercept, it is going to be c divided by b. So if I were to give you these three equations and say, okay, what kind of equations are they, and what information do they provide, you should be able to do that by looking at which of the formats do they match. Now, this first one, does it fit y equals mx plus b? Well, no, because it doesn't start with y equals. Does the second one? Well, yes, because it has y equals mx plus b. So this is in slope-intercept form. Now, then I've got y minus y. Does this start with y minus y? No. So this one is going to be my ax plus by equals c. And this one's going to be my y minus y equals m times x minus x. Now, what does this information provide for us? Well, it provides our x and our y intercepts. If I wanted to find the x-intercept, I simply do c divided by a. Well, the c in this equation is 12, and the a in this equation is 3, so the y-intercept is going to be 4. Or sorry, the x-intercept is going to be 4. The y-intercept I'm going to do similarly, c divided by b. C is 12, b is 4, so the answer is 3. What does this last equation give us? Well, it tells us that it's going to pass through the point where the y is 5, and we have to change our plus sign to a minus a negative, because you can see this is a negative sign, and so this needs to be a negative sign. So it becomes x is negative 4 and y is 5, and there's a slope of negative 2. When I have a negative slope, I know that my line is going to go down. For the slope-intercept form, I know that my slope is -1/3 and that my y-intercept is 5. And I know because my slope is negative that my line is going to go down. So that's the vocabulary you needed to learn. Okay, so let's actually practice some of this. So on page 2, first step is to write the equation of line and then sketch the graph. Well, you can see we've provided the equation of the line here. And as a reminder, the first y does not change, the first x does not change. So if I were to write y minus y equals m times x minus x, what I have to determine is which is my x and which is my y. Well, 5 is my x, 3 is my y. So y minus 3 equals slope of 7, x minus 5. And that's where we stop. So this is my x, this is my y. Write the equation first. Replace the points. Y minus a -1, -3, x minus 2. You try the last one. Come on, pause it and actually try it on your own. All right, that should have been your correct answer. Now what happens if there's a slope of 4/3? Well, when we're talking about fractions, nothing's changing in terms of our equations. So this is my x, this is my y. Y minus 11 equals 4/3 times x minus a -2. This is my x, this is my y. Y minus a -8 equals -5/8 x minus a -6. As a reminder, a horizontal line has a slope of 0. You try that one. Now it also says in the directions to sketch a graph. So sketches don't have to be pretty. But what I want you to keep in mind is just kind of like what it's supposed to look like. So you want it to go over 5, up 3, not this one. And then from that point, you're going to go up 7 to the right 1. So up 7 to the right 1, so it's going to be a pretty steep line. It doesn't have to be a fancy drawing, but it does need to be done. So to the right 2, down 1, and a slope of -3, that means we are going to go down 3 to the right 1. And -6, -3, and a slope of 0 is going to be a horizontal line. Now, similarly, I want you to sketch the other 3. But remember that this 4/3 is going to be up 4 to the right 3. And this one is going to be down 5 to the right 8. You sketch the last 3. Okay, the last skill that we want you to be able to do, I want you to look again back at the front side to the success criteria. So if I'm looking at this, we're first going to do distribute the slope, then move the constant with the y to the right using the opposite operation. You can see that those two steps are exactly the same. If I'm going to standard form, then I simply move the x term to the left by using the opposite operation. So we're going to be doing that today, right now on this lesson. So step 1, again, is to distribute the x. Distribute the x, or distribute the slope. That means I'm going to distribute 2 to both of these. That leaves me with y minus 10 equals 2x minus 16. Now that's the first step. Okay. Now then, the second step said to move the constant that was with the y to the right by doing the opposite operation. So what number is with the y? The 10. And we're going to move that to the right by doing the opposite operation. Opposite of minus 10 is plus 10. That leaves me y equals 2x minus 6. And you can see this is y equals mx plus b, which means this is our slope-intercept form. Now we're not done because it asks us for the slope-intercept and standard form. Now to move it into standard form, if we look back at the success criteria, it simply says that we need to move our x term to the left by doing the opposite operation. So we are going to start with our y equals 2x minus 6, and we are going to minus 2x on both sides. Now if we pay attention, our standard form has the x terms first, so it's minus 2x plus y equals a negative 6. And that is our standard form. So again, step 1 is to distribute. So y minus 6 equals negative 3x minus 6. Step 2 is to get rid of the constant with the y by doing the opposite operation. This is slope-intercept form. Now the last step to put it into standard form is to move the x term to the left. Now why did I leave this plus 0 here? Well, when I move my x term to the left, I need to remember that there's something after this equal sign, and it's 0. And here's my standard form. You try and follow those steps and do this one. So again, the first step is to distribute. The second step is to move the constant to the right by doing the opposite operation. That should leave you with the form of y equals mx plus b, or slope-intercept form. Then the last step is to move your x term to the left by doing the opposite operation. Okay. Well, what happens when you have a fraction? So write yourself a big note. To get rid of the fraction first, we're going to multiply by the denominator. To get rid of the fraction, multiply by the denominator. To get rid of the fraction, multiply by the denominator. So we're going to multiply y times 10, and the 7 times 10, and the 9/10 times 10. Now when we do that, y times 10 is just 10y. 7 times 10 is 70. 9 times 10 is just going to leave us, or 9/10 times 10 is just going to leave us with 9 times x plus 3. And now the rest of it's the same. Distribute. Move it over. So 10y equals 9x minus 43. Now, you can't leave it like this for slope-intercept form because there's still the 10 up front. But we are going to recopy this for our standard form. And to put it into slope-intercept form, we still need to divide everything by 10. So our final answer for slope-intercept form is y equals 9/10 x minus 43 over 10. Opposite operation is to subtract 9x from both sides. So the final answer is going to be negative 9x plus 10y equals negative 43. Okay. So again, we multiply everything by the denominator. So we're multiplying by 2, by 2, by 2. So that's 2y plus 14 is equal to negative 3 times x plus 1. You distribute. 2y plus 14 is equal to negative 3x minus 3. You move the constant with the y by doing the opposite operation. Divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2. Y equals negative 3/2 x minus 17/2. And you go back from this one to y equals negative 3x minus 17. Opposite of negative 3x is positive 3x. Our final answer is 3x plus 2y equals negative 17. You try the last one on your own. Now, your homework today is on Delta Math. Now, the only thing that I did not cover is what happens if the slope is undefined. And if the slope is undefined, then it's not going to fit one of those other formats. It's going to start with x equals. So if they give you a point 3,7 and it has an undefined slope, the equation of that is going to be x equals, which one of these is my x value? The 3 is, it is simply going to be the equation, x equals 3. This homework assignment also is going to ask you to do some slip and slide first. So I'm going to do a quick reminder on slip and slide. To find the slope of 2 points, or given 2 points, we've got, say, -1, 3, and 2, -3. Slip and slide. Remember, the -3 comes all the way down here, and it's always a minus. 2 minus -1. Put this into your Desmos graph or scientific calculator. I can tell you that's going to be 6 over -3, which is going to give you a slope of -2. So if you were to put this into an equation, you need to use one of these points and this slope. So y minus 3 equals -2 times x minus -1. This would be your final answer for the second set of questions. So do your best, and if you have any questions, please send me an email.